Welcome back to the channel everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the new viewers who love discovering hidden value in everyday objects, because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and talked about modern coin legends in American numismatics, the 1993 mint mark P1 dime USA coin, a small 10-cent piece that many people still overlook in pocket change, old jars, drawers, or inherited collections, yet which has become famous in collector stories and high-end coin circles. For the incredible possibility that certain rare error examples could reach values whispered as high as $15 million, and whether you believe that exact number or not, the journey of how an ordinary Philadelphia minted Roosevelt dime from 1993 could become so valuable is a thrilling lesson in minting history, production mistakes, human error, metal science, and the psychology of rarity. Because the truth is that value in coins is not created by age alone but by a perfect storm of mistakes, survival, demand, condition, and timing, and the 1993 P dime sits right at the intersection of all these factors, starting with the fact that in 1993 the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes using modern high-speed presses, clad copper-nickel planchets, and strict quality controls. Yet even in such a technologically advanced era, errors still occurred. And those errors are exactly where the big money begins, because some of the most valuable coins in the world were never supposed to exist in the first place, and when a coin escapes the mint with a dramatic mistake, it becomes a frozen moment of failure that collectors obsess over. And with the 1993 P dime, the most talked about and potentially valuable errors include wrong planchet strikes, off-metal compositions, doubled dies, dramatic off-center strikes, broad strikes without collars, missing clad layers, clipped planchets, misaligned dies, and even meal errors where dies intended for different denominations are paired together, and each one of these mistakes tells a story of how the minting process briefly broke down, starting with wrong planchet errors, which are among the most explosive in terms of value, because if a 1993 P dime were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a penny, nickel, or even a foreign coin blank, the weight, thickness, and sound would immediately be wrong. And collectors pay enormous premiums for such pieces because they prove that mint safeguards failed at multiple stages, and if such a dime were struck on a silver planchet or experimental alloy, which is the kind of scenario that fuels million-dollar rumors, the value could skyrocket due to the combination of modern date, unexpected metal, and extreme rarity, especially if metallurgical testing confirms the anomaly and the coin is certified by a top grading service. Then there are double die errors, which are more subtle but equally fascinating, occurring when the die itself receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub during creation, resulting in doubling on the date, the word liberty, the motto "I in God We Trust," or Roosevelt's facial features, and on a 1993 P dime strong hub doubling would be incredibly rare because of improved hubbing techniques by that era, which is exactly why such a coin would be so valuable. As collectors prize errors that were supposed to have been eliminated by modern technology, and when such a coin appears it challenges assumptions and becomes legendary almost overnight, while off-center strikes are another dramatic category where the coin is not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing part of the design to be missing and blank metal to show, and the value increases significantly if the date and mint mark remain visible, because that proves the coin's identity. And a 1993 P dime struck 50% or more off-center with full original luster, and no damage could command enormous sums. Especially if few examples are known. Then there are broad strikes where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal with a distorted rim. And while many broad strikes are modestly priced, extreme examples with sharp details and pristine surfaces can reach very high values, particularly when paired with other errors like misalignment or die cracks. And speaking of die cracks and breaks, late-stage die failures can create dramatic raised lines, cuds, and missing design elements. And on a modern dime these features stand out sharply, creating a unique fingerprint that collectors love, and if a massive retained cut or full cut appears on a 1993 P dime it can push the coin into elite error territory, especially if it is one of a kind. Missing clad layer errors are another major value driver where the outer copper-nickel layer separates from the copper core either before or after striking, resulting in a coin that is lighter than normal, and often displays a dull copper color or unusual texture, and when this happens on a dime with a clear date and strong strike, it becomes extremely desirable, because it visually screams mint error even to non-experts. And clipped planchets add yet another layer of intrigue, occurring when the metal strip is improperly fed into the blanking press, leaving curved or straight clips missing from the edge of the coin. And while small clips are common, large or multiple clips on a single 1993p diamond mint state condition could be exceptionally valuable, especially if the clip demonstrates the Blakesley effect opposite the missing metal, confirming it as a genuine mint error. Misaligned die errors where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned can also command big premiums, particularly when the misalignment is severe enough to be immediately noticeable. And in rare cases, extreme misalignment combined with rotation errors can make a coin almost surreal in appearance, turning a simple dime into a conversation-stopping artifact. And then there is the holy grail category of mule errors where a dime obverse is paired with a reverse from another denomination or series, which should never happen under standard mint procedures, and if a 1993p dime mule were ever confirmed, it would instantly become one of the most important modern era coins in existence, potentially justifying the kind of multi-million-dollar valuations people talk about online, because mule errors are not just mistakes, they are proof of a breakdown in system logic, and collectors and museums compete fiercely for such pieces. Condition also plays a massive role in value because era coins that survive in circulated condition are impressive, but those preserved in mint state with full luster, sharp details, and no post-mint damage are exponentially rarer. And when you combine a dramatic error with a high grade like MS67 or higher, the value curve becomes almost vertical, and certification is absolutely critical here because without authentication from respected grading services, claims of million-dollar value remain speculation, but once a coin is slabbed, attributed, and graded, it enters the global marketplace with credibility, and that is when auction records are born. Provenance also matters because if a 1993p dime error can be traced back to an original mint employee find, a sealed mint bag discovery, or a known hoard, it gains an extra layer of historical importance, and timing influences value as well because modern era coins are still being discovered, meaning that early confirmed examples often command the highest prices as they set the benchmark for rarity, while demand continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby through social media, YouTube, and viral stories of valuable pocket change, and this is where the $15 million narrative really gains power. Because it is not just about what has already sold, but about what could happen if a truly unique, never-before-seen 1993p dime error appears, something so extreme that it rewrites price expectations, and history shows this is not impossible, as coins once considered minor curiosities later became eight-figure icons when the market matured, and the psychological element cannot be ignored because humans are drawn to the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in something ordinary. And that belief fuels attention, research, and competition, which in turn drives prices higher for the rarest examples. So when people say a 1993 mint Mark P dime could be worth $15 million, they are really talking about the upper edge of possibility where extreme rarity, perfect condition, undeniable authentication, and intense collector demand converge, and while most 1993p dimes are worth only face value, the few that escape the mint with astonishing errors represent the thrilling uncertainty that makes coin collecting addictive, because every coin is a small metal document of human systems at work. Next, 2002 mint Mark D 1 dime USA coin, a Denver minted Roosevelt dime that on the surface looks completely ordinary yet has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide due to the astonishing possibility that certain ultra-rare error examples could be valued as high as $9 million. And while that number may sound unbelievable to casual listeners, the deeper you understand how modern coins are made, how mistakes occur, how rarity is defined, and how collector demand explodes around unique anomalies, the more you realize why this story refuses to disappear, because coin value is not about face value or even metal content, it is about exceptions, breakdowns in process, survival against the odds, and the intense human desire to own something no one else has, and the 2002 D dime sits perfectly within that framework, beginning with the historical context of its production. Since in 2002 the United States Mint was operating at extremely high output levels, with the Denver Mint striking hundreds of millions of dimes to meet circulation demand using copper-nickel-clad planchets, high-speed presses, automated quality control systems, and tight tolerances designed to minimize errors. Yet paradoxically it is exactly this environment that can produce some of the most dramatic and valuable mistakes. Because when machines operate at immense speed, even a fraction of a second of misalignment, or a single flawed blank, can result in a coin that should never exist. And those are the coins collectors dream about, starting with wrong planchet errors, which are among the most powerful drivers of value for modern dimes, because if a 2002 D dime were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a cent, nickel, quarter, or even a foreign coin blank, the result would immediately stand out due to incorrect weight, thickness, and color. And collectors would pay enormous premiums because such an error proves that multiple safeguards failed simultaneously. And if such a dime were struck on a silver planchet, experimental alloy, or leftover blank from another minting project, the value could skyrocket into legendary territory, especially if laboratory testing confirms the metal composition and the coin is authenticated and graded by a top-tier service. Then there are doubled die errors, which occur during the creation of the dies themselves rather than during the striking of individual coins, and in 2002 doubled dies are exceptionally rare because of improved hubbing technology, making any strong doubling on the date, the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," or Roosevelt's facial features extraordinarily valuable, as collectors prize errors that were supposed to have been eliminated by modern technology. And a clearly visible double die 2002 D dime in mint state condition would instantly become one of the most important modern era coins known, while off-center strikes offer another dramatic visual category, happening when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar, resulting in part of the design being struck off the edge, and value increases dramatically when the date and mint mark remain visible. And if a 2002 D dime were struck 40, 50, or even 60% off-center with strong detail and original luster, it would command extraordinary prices. Particularly if few examples exist, broad strikes are another possibility where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread outward and distort the rim. And while minor broad strikes are relatively affordable, extreme examples with sharp details, smooth surfaces, and no damage can reach very high values, especially when combined with other errors such as die misalignment or missing elements. Die cracks, die breaks, and cuts also play a major role in pushing values higher, because as dies wear out or fail, they can produce raised lines, blobs, or missing sections of design that are unique to a specific moment in time, and on a modern dime these features are highly visible. And if a massive cut appears on a 2002 D dime, particularly one that obliterates part of the rim or lettering, it becomes a one-of-a-kind artifact that collectors fiercely compete for. Missing clad layer errors add yet another dimension of value, occurring when one of the outer copper-nickel layers separates from the copper core, leaving the coin underweight and often copper-colored on one side, and such coins are visually striking and instantly recognizable as mint errors. And when this happens on a clearly dated 2002 D dime in high grade, the value can soar. Clipped planchets also contribute to the legend, caused by improper feeding of the metal strip into the blanking press, resulting in curved or straight pieces missing from the edge. And while small clips are common, large, dramatic, or multiple clips on a single 2002 D dime in mint state condition could push the coin into elite territory, especially if the clip displays the Blakesley effect opposite the missing metal, confirming its authenticity. Misaligned die errors and rotated dies add further intrigue, because when the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned the coin looks wrong even to the untrained eye, and severe rotation combined with off-center or broad strike characteristics can make a coin appear almost surreal, dramatically increasing collector interest. And then there is the ultimate category of mule errors, where a dime obverse is paired with a reverse intended for another denomination or series, something that should never happen under normal mint procedures. And if a 2002 D dime mule were ever confirmed, it would instantly become one of the most famous modern U.S. era coins ever discovered, potentially justifying multi-million-dollar valuations, because mule errors are not just mistakes. They are proof of systemic failure, and museums, elite collectors, and investors would compete aggressively. For ownership, condition again plays a decisive role, because while circulated era coins are exciting, those preserved in mint state with full luster, sharp strikes, and no post-mint damage are exponentially rarer, and when an extreme error is combined with a grade like MS67 or higher, the price curve becomes almost vertical. Certification is absolutely essential, because without professional authentication, claims of $9 million value remain speculation, but once a coin is slabbed, attributed, and graded, it enters the global numismatic marketplace with credibility, and that is when auction records are set. Provenance also matters, because if a 2002 D-dime error can be traced back to a sealed mint bag, a known hoard, or an original mint discovery, it gains historical weight that further increases value, and timing influences everything. Because modern era coins are still being discovered, and early confirmed examples often command the highest premiums as they define the market, while demand continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby through social media, viral videos, and stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins. And this is where the $9 million narrative truly takes hold, because it represents the upper limit of possibility, the scenario where a single unique 2002 D-dime combines an unprecedented error, perfect preservation, unquestionable authentication, and intense global demand, and history shows that such moments do happen. As coins once dismissed as curiosities later became cultural icons worth fortunes, and the psychological power of the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in spare change cannot be underestimated, because it fuels curiosity, education, and competition, which in turn drives prices higher for the rarest survivors. So when people say a 2002 mint mark D-dime could be worth $9 million, they are not claiming that every dime is valuable, but rather acknowledging that under the right extraordinary circumstances, a tiny piece of metal can become a masterpiece of minting history, and that is why it is always worth looking closely at your coins, because as long as machines strike money and humans design and operate those machines, rare mistakes will continue to slip through, waiting quietly for someone to notice, and the next legendary discovery could already be in your pocket. Next, 2005 mint mark P1 dime USA coin, a Philadelphia minted Roosevelt dime that most people would never look at twice, yet which has become surrounded by powerful collector interest and legendary valuations due to the possibility that certain extremely rare error examples could be worth as much as $7 million. And while that number may sound shocking at first, the deeper we explore the minting process, the types of errors that can occur, the role of rarity, condition, certification, and collector psychology, the clearer it becomes why a modern dime like this could reach such astonishing heights. Because coin value is not determined by age alone, nor by face value or metal content, but by how completely a coin breaks expectations. And the 2005 P dime exists in an era when the US Mint was producing coins at tremendous speed and volume, relying heavily on automation, quality control, and modern technology, yet no system created by humans is perfect, and it is precisely within these high-speed, high-pressure environments that remarkable mistakes can slip through, becoming frozen moments of failure that collectors treasure, starting with the historical context of 2005 itself, a year when hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes were struck at the Philadelphia Mint to meet circulation demand, using copper-nickel-clad planchets bonded to a pure copper core. And while the vast majority of these coins are common and worth only face value, a microscopic fraction escaped the mint with dramatic errors that transformed them from pocket change into elite numismatic artifacts, and among the most valuable possibilities are wrong planchet errors, which occur when a dime is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, resulting in incorrect weight, thickness, and appearance. And if a 2005 P dime were struck on a cent, nickel, quarter, or foreign planchet, the error would immediately be obvious to experienced collectors. But the most explosive valuations come from off-metal strikes involving silver planchets, experimental alloys, or leftover blanks from other minting programs, because such errors combine modern-date rarity with unexpected metal composition, and if metallurgical testing confirms such an anomaly, and the coin is authenticated and graded by a major service, its value could escalate into the multi-million-dollar range. Then there are double die errors, which are created during the hubbing process. When the die itself receives multiple misaligned impressions, causing true doubling on design elements such as the date, the word liberty, the motto "I in God we trust," or the details of Roosevelt's face. And on a 2005 P dime, such errors are exceptionally rare because modern hubbing techniques were designed to virtually eliminate them, which is exactly why a strong double die from this era would be so valuable. As collectors are drawn to errors that challenge assumptions about technological perfection, and even subtle but clearly defined doubling, when confirmed as hub doubling rather than machine doubling, can command enormous premiums. Off-center strikes represent another visually dramatic and highly collectible category, occurring when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar at the moment of striking, causing part of the design to be missing and blank metal to show. And the value of such a coin increases dramatically when the date and mint mark remain visible, because that confirms the coin's identity. And a 2005 P dime struck 40 to 60% off-center with sharp details, full original luster, and no post-mint damage could command extraordinary prices, especially if only one or two examples are known. Broad strike errors add yet another layer of intrigue, happening when the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond its normal diameter, distorting the rim and sometimes the lettering. And while many broad strikes are relatively affordable, extreme examples with crisp details and pristine surfaces become highly desirable, particularly when combined with other errors like misaligned dies or partial collar effects. Die cracks, die breaks, and cuts are also important contributors to value, because as dies wear out or catastrophically fail, they can produce raised lines, blobs, or missing sections of design that are unique to a specific moment in the minting process. And on a modern dime, these features stand out sharply, and a massive cut that obliterates part of the rim or lettering on a 2005 P dime would create a one-of-a-kind coin that collectors would aggressively pursue. Missing clad layer errors are among the most visually striking possibilities, occurring when one of the outer copper-nickel layers separates from the copper core either before or after striking, resulting in a coin that is underweight and often displays a coppery appearance or unusual texture, and such coins are instantly recognizable as mint errors even to non-experts, and when paired with a clear date and mint mark in high grade, the value can soar. Clipped planchets further expand the range of valuable errors caused by improper feeding of the metal strip into the blanking press, resulting in curved or straight pieces missing from the coin's edge. And while small clips are relatively common, large, dramatic, or multiple clips on a single 2005 P dime in mint state condition could elevate it into elite error territory, especially if the clip shows the Blakesley effect opposite the missing metal, confirming its authenticity. Misaligned die errors and rotated dies also capture collector attention, because when the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, the coin looks immediately wrong, and severe rotations combined with off-center or broad strike characteristics can make a coin appear almost surreal, dramatically increasing its desirability. And then there is the ultimate category of mule errors, where a dime obverse is paired with a reverse intended for another denomination or series, something that should never happen under standard mint procedures. And if a 2005 P dime mule were ever confirmed, it would instantly become one of the most important modern U.S. error coins known, potentially justifying valuations in the multi-million-dollar range, because mule errors are not just mistakes. They are evidence of systemic breakdown, and museums, elite collectors, and investors would compete intensely to acquire such a piece. Condition plays a decisive role in all of this, because while circulated error coins are exciting, those preserved in mint state with full luster, sharp strikes, and no post-mint damage are exponentially rarer. And when an extreme error is combined with a top-tier grade such as MS67 or higher, the price curve becomes almost vertical. Certification is absolutely essential, because without professional authentication and attribution, claims of $7 million value remain speculation. But once a coin is slabbed and graded by a respected service, it enters the global numismatic marketplace with credibility. And that is when record-setting prices become possible. Provenance further enhances value, because a coin traced to a sealed mint bag, a known hoard, or an original mint discovery gains historical significance that collectors prize. And timing influences everything as well, because modern era coins are still being discovered. And early confirmed examples often command the highest premiums as they establish benchmarks for rarity, while demand continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby through social media, online auctions, and viral stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins. And this is where the $7 million narrative truly takes hold, because it represents the upper edge of possibility. The scenario where a single 2005p dime combines an unprecedented error, flawless preservation, unquestionable authentication, and intense global demand, and history shows that such moments do occur, as coins once dismissed as curiosities later became cultural icons worth fortunes, and the psychological power of the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in spare change cannot be overstated, because it fuels curiosity, education, and competition, which in turn drives prices higher for the rarest survivors. So when people say a 2005 mint Mark P dime could be worth $7 million, they are not suggesting that every dime is valuable, but rather acknowledging that under the most extraordinary circumstances, a tiny piece of metal can become a masterpiece of minting history.